The United Nations is issuing its starkest warning yet about the crisis in Gaza, calling it the hungriest place on earth. The entire population is now at risk of famine, with food aid blocked, children starving, and desperate families forced to flee their homes. As Israel continues its military campaign, even basic aid is struggling to reach the people who need it most.
In Gaza, hunger is now everywhere. The United Nations says not a single person here is safe from famine.
Many of those were swarmed by desperate people on the way who picked off the items. It's a survival reaction by desperate people who want to feed their families, themselves and their kids. And by the way, the aid that is on those trucks have been paid for by the donors to go to those people. So I don't blame them 1 second for taking the aid that essentially is already theirs. But it's not distributed in a way we want it. The alternative modality that they have put out is not working. I mean, you have seen, it does not meet the needs of people. It creates chaos, and it creates a situation that is extremely dangerous for people to pick up the aid and to leave again. Because even if you enter one of those distribution points, pick up a package, the minute you're out of it, what do you think? Are you a target for looters again? Yes, you are.
The United Nations says only a fraction of the aid approved by Israel is actually reaching Gaza. Of 900 trucks cleared to enter the Karim Shalom, fewer than 600 have been offloaded and even less distributed. In the north, no aid has arrived in days. In the south, supplies are so limited that people wait for hours and often leave empty-handed. Israel is now backing a US-linked group, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, to distribute aid. But the United Nations and other agencies refuse to work with it, calling it non-neutral and discriminatory. With no proper food, parents are giving their children only water, just to ease their hunger and pains. The United Nations says even the aid that's getting through is having very little impact, and warns that famine could hit Gaza at any moment if full humanitarian access isn't restored immediately. For many here, the only thing they are holding on to is hope, and even at that, it is running out.
And Francis Hughes, a journalist in Northern Ireland, joins us now to speak about this crisis, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Thank you very much, Mr. Hughes, for joining us at this time. What are your thoughts on what you see playing out? Gaza, the hungriest place on earth now.
Well, obviously the Zionist regime is using starvation as a weapon of war. We've witnessed over the last 18, 19 months the total destruction of the infrastructure within Gaza. The plan, as we see, has been to destroy hospitals, schools, aid centres, people's homes, suburban districts, villages, towns and cities. So there is total war being waged upon 2.2 million people in Gaza, with the intention of corralling them all in the south of Gaza, around Rafah and around these aid distribution centres. So they are using starvation as a weapon of war, and they are using food distribution as coercive control upon the people of Gaza. And it's becoming more and more apparent that the group which is in charge of distributing this food, which is the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, whose CEO recently resigned. He said that the objectives and the manner in which this food aid distribution is carried out is not in line with international humanitarian aims. And you've had the UN and you've had every other NGO involved in humanitarianism refuse to endorse what is seen to be now a Mossad CIA front that is manned and is used. They're using mercenaries in order to distribute a tiny amount of food to the people in Gaza. 500 trucks got in before October 2023. Now it's 100 trucks a day. And there are reports that at least 12 people were abducted interrogated, and potentially tortured and disappeared.
Yes, as they come seeking food and other aid supplies. What is the way out now?
Is anyone surprised that people who are starving and parents who are desperate to find food to keep their children and potentially their parents alive, that people, when they see food and it's being withheld, that they will insist that that food is given out for as many of the population as possible who can receive it. The fact that 3 people were murdered by the Israelis and many more injured at what's supposed to be an international food distribution camp, what it proves is UNRWA is the only mechanism. The mechanism has existed in Gaza from 1948 through 1967 to the present day. There is a supply chain already in place. But the reality and the truth behind what is happening is they want, the Zionists and the Americans and others want the total end to the civil society within Gaza. They want chaos. They want people hopeless. They want people helpless. They want no civil infrastructure to disperse food or water or fuel or anything that tents that are needed so desperately by the people on the ground. This is political deceit. This is political duplicity. This is just a bandage on an amputated body.
Right. And for a bit more context to this conversation, the WFP warehouses have also been looted, even resulting in a number of deaths that's still under investigation, bringing on board now a need, according to WFP, for safe and unimpeded access to aid. What's your thought?
Well, previously the Israelis were shooting at the aid trucks that were coming into Gaza. They were assisting criminal gangs in the looting of this food aid in order to allow the black market to thrive, which in itself was another form of collective punishment upon civil society that was trying to distribute that food to every vulnerable person in need. So what we have and what we're witnessing, I mean, just let the food in. You don't need a mechanism other than UNRWA to distribute it. So this is all just, it's falseness, it's lies, it's deceit. If you're gonna be shooting the aid drivers as they did in the past, and then the aid delivery mechanism through the World Food Programme and others, then say, as they've said in the past, it is not safe for us to allow our drivers and vehicles in. This is all part of the greater plan for the final solution of the Palestinian indigenous people in Gaza and indeed the West Bank, and sadly some state in the future, the 2 million what are called Israeli Arabs, who are actually Palestinians, who are still on their indigenous lands in historic Palestine that some people call Israel. If they let the food in and stop trying to control the narrative and stop trying to control the distribution as a form of coercive control, they could feed everybody. There are enough trucks at the Rafah border to feed everyone in Gaza for 2 weeks, and then those trucks can be replaced by the next tranche that is sent in to help the people. They don't want the food to go in. They want to control whatever the distribution is. They want to continue with the genocide and the starvation. And what we're witnessing is PR, it's propaganda, and they're lying to the world as they have done since the 8th of October 2023.
Francis Hughes, thanks a lot for your contributions from Northern Ireland.